Hello and welcome to TechDaily.ai. I'm David. I am so hyped to get into today's topic because, honestly, it feels like we've been waiting for this one forever.
And I'm Sophia. It is great to be here, and you are not wrong. The anticipation for this particular device has been building for, years now?
Years. But before we jump into all that, we have a quick message for anyone out there looking to get their voice heard. You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit techdaily.ai to get started today.
That is honestly a steal. It's a great way to reach, a really tech-savvy audience.
It really is. But okay, let's do it. Let's get right to
All
it.
right.
We have to talk about the elephant in the room.
Duh.
Or maybe the folding elephant in the room.
I assume we are talking about the elusive, mythical, often rumored but never seen iPhone Fold.
Exactly. It feels like we've been talking about this for 5 years. I remember seeing concept art for this back when the iPhone X came out.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, if I look around, on the subway, folding phones are literally everywhere now. I mean, Samsung's doing victory laps.
They really are. They're on their, sixth generation of the Galaxy Fold. They've moved past just folding in half. They have a trifold now. The market is maturing very, very quickly without Apple.
Yeah, it's like, those old Razor commercials? First 2 blades, then 3, then 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming the Razor with more blades. Now it folds 3 times.
That is a surprisingly accurate analogy, but the important thing is that the technology isn't scary anymore, right? The initial problems, the creases, the hinges that felt like they might snap, dust getting under the display, those are mostly solved problems for the competition.
Right, which puts Apple in such a weird spot. They are incredibly late to this party.
Mm-hmm.
And usually Apple's whole thing is be late but be better.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the rumors and the leaks, the stakes just feel incredibly high.
They are.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at that projected price point. If the reporting is accurate, we are looking at a price tag north of $2,000.
$2,000 for a phone.
For a phone.
That's a used car. That is a very nice vacation.
At least. And that brings up the big question, right? If Apple is finally doing this and charging that kind of money, it can't just be an iPhone that bends in half. It has to be something more.
If it's just a party trick, it's dead on arrival.
Exactly. So that's our mission today. We are going to unpack the leaks, the specs, and this really interesting software strategy that might just save this thing.
Because honestly, looking at the hardware alone, I have some questions.
Well, let's start there. Let's visualize this thing. Because based on the latest intelligence, this does not look like the folding phones we are used to seeing.
Okay, so paint the picture for me. I've got $2,000 burning a hole in my pocket. What am I holding?
Think book-style fold. So it opens up like a book, but the dimensions are the key here. It's being described as squatter and wider.
Squatter. That's not usually a word Apple loves.
Yeah.
They like sleek, elegant.
Not this time. Think about the remote control shape of the early Galaxy Folds. Very tall, very skinny, kind of hard to type on the front screen. This is different. The external display is apparently around 5.5 inches, but because it's wider, it's not that tall, skinny aspect ratio.
Okay, I can kind of picture that. It sounds a bit more like a passport.
That is the perfect analogy. It's passport-sized. Comfortable in the hand, but, substantial.
Yeah.
And when you open it up, the internal display is just under 8 inches.
Which is big. That's a lot of screen.
It is. But here's a detail that caught my eye about the back. The camera bump. You know how the rumored iPhone Air has that specific design language?
Yeah, the ultra-thin one, right. They're talking about a horizontal layout.
Exactly. The rumors suggest the Fold is using a similar plateau, a horizontal camera arrangement across the back, instead of the square in the corner.
So they're trying to unify the design language.
It seems like it for their future tier devices.
Okay, so we've got a squat, wide phone horizontal camera. But there's something else about the hardware that actually shocked me. Usually, physics says when you make a phone fold, you have to sacrifice battery, right? Hinges take up space.
Usually, yes. That has been the Achilles heel of this form factor since day one. You've got 2 screens to power, less room for battery.
But the reports are saying the opposite here.
They are. And this is where that squat and wide design might actually be a genius engineering move. The reports are saying this device might have the highest battery capacity of any iPhone ever made.
Ever. Even bigger than the Pro Max models.
Yes. We're hearing rumors of a capacity north of 5,000 millibar.
Wow. How on earth are they fitting that in a device that has to fold?
Well, think about the internal architecture. If the left side of the device, when it's open, is mostly just display and battery, they can dedicate a huge volume just to power cells.
So they basically turn one half of the phone into a fuel tank.
Precisely.
Right.
By consolidating the logic board to the other side, they create these massive reservoirs for power.
That actually makes a lot of sense. And if I'm powering an 8-inch screen, I'm going to need it.
You certainly will. But you know that with a form factor this radical, there are always compromises.
Right.
And there are some odd ones here. Security, buttons.
Oh, no. Don't tell me they're removing buttons.
Not removing, just moving and
Really?
changing. The biggest one, no Face ID.
What? Face ID is like core iPhone identity now. It's seamless. Why would they cut it?
It comes down to depth. The sensors needed for Face ID, they require a certain amount of vertical space. On a foldable, where the goal is to keep each half as thin as possible, there just might not be room.
So we're going back to typing in passcodes.
Not quite. The rumors point to Touch ID.
Touch ID. Like going back to the fingerprint.
Yes, but located in the power button on the side.
Okay, honestly, I kind of miss Touch ID sometimes. Face ID fails when I'm wearing sunglasses or lying in bed. But it does feel like a step back for a $2,000 phone.
It definitely lacks that magic factor Apple loves. And it gets weirder. The volume buttons are likely along the top edge of the device.
The top edge.
Yes, because the sides are occupied by the hinge and the antennas.
So my muscle memory is going to be completely broken. I'll be reaching for the side and just squeezing metal.
It will take some adjustment.
So, to recap the hardware, we have a wide, squat, heavy battery beast with no Face ID, buttons in weird places, and it costs a fortune.
When you put it that way, it's a tough sell.
It sounds powerful, but is a wider phone what people actually want? Or are people saying, I wish my iPhone was shorter?
That is the so what problem.
Yeah.
And it is the biggest hurdle Apple faces.
Let's unpack that. The price, $2,000. That is double a standard iPhone.
Right. And historically, Apple could rely on design to sell premium products. But do you remember the iPhone Air concept?
Vaguely. The super thin ones.
Exactly. Those models that prioritize form over function, they don't do well compared to the Pro models.
Because people want power. They want value.
Exactly. The lesson is that sleek design, or in this case the wow factor of a folding screen, isn't enough anymore. The novelty is years old.
So the cool factor is gone.
Or at least it's diminished. It's not enough to make someone part with $2,000. And this brings us to the software problem.
iOS.
iOS. It is simply not built for screens that are wider than they are tall.
I can imagine. I mean, even on the iPad, some apps just look weirdly spaced out.
And on a phone, it's worse. If you just take iOS and stretch it out, what are you paying for? A bigger version of Instagram where the photo is pixelated?
Right. It's just blowing up the interface. It looks terrible.
And if they just add split-screen multitasking?
Well, Android has had that for years.
Exactly. If Apple just does that, they're only catching up, not leading. And catching up is not a $2,000 value proposition.
No. So if I open an app on the inside screen and it's just a stretched out, blown up version, that's a failure. It's an expensive toy.
It is.
So the hardware is niche, the software is a problem. Where is the innovation here?
That is why I think the hardware leaks are a distraction. The real story, the thing that will decide if this lives or dies, is what we are calling the hybrid theory.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. The hybrid theory. Break it down for me.
Okay. Imagine this isn't just a phone running iOS. Imagine that when you unfold it, the operating system shifts. What if, internally, it's running iPadOS?
Wait, like full iPad software.
Think about the dimensions. The unfolded display is just under 8 inches. You know how big the current iPad mini screen is?
It's small for a tablet. 8 something.
8.3 inches. They're almost identical in size. And more importantly, they have very similar aspect ratios.
So the hardware is basically an iPad mini that folds in half to fit in your pocket.
Precisely. So if Apple leans into that, suddenly the value proposition shifts completely. You aren't buying a folding phone. You are buying an iPhone and an iPad mini in one device.
Okay, now my ears are perking up. Because if it runs iPadOS internally, that means...
It means you get the dock, you get true multitasking with Stage Manager.
Stage Manager, the windowing thing, on a phone.
It sounds cramped, but on an 8-inch screen, it works. And here's the kicker. Input support. iPadOS supports a mouse and a trackpad.
A mouse. On a phone.
It sounds ridiculous until you're on a flight, you pop your phone open, connect a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and suddenly you're editing a spreadsheet. You have a cursor.
Okay, that turns it into a workstation.
Yeah.
That is not a phone anymore.
And the final piece of the puzzle, Apple Pencil support.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that.
If I can pull this out of my pocket, unfold it, and sketch or take handwritten notes like I do on an iPad, that fundamentally changes my workflow.
It stops being a consumption device, it becomes a creation device.
Exactly. Most folding phones today are media toys. Look, my video is bigger. This becomes a productivity tool.
That's the aha moment. I wouldn't pay $2,000 for a bendy iPhone, but would I pay it for an iPhone that unfolds into a pocketable iPad mini? Maybe.
It solves the why. Why buy this? Because it replaces two devices.
But there's a catch, right? There's always a catch.
The catch is the transition, the handoff.
Right. Say you're looking at maps on the cover screen, the iPhone part.
Yeah.
Then you snap it open to see the big map. What happens?
Well, does the app restart? Does it glitch out?
That transition has to be flawless. It has to be, to use an Apple word, delightful.
Right. If it's glitchy, the illusion breaks. They can't just take the easy road of expand to fill screen. They have to innovate there.
And speaking of practical use cases,
Mm-hmm.
I drop my phone constantly. A $2,000 folding glass sandwich terrifies me.
Cases for foldables are notoriously difficult because of the hinge. You can't just wrap the whole thing in rubber.
Right. The most vulnerable part is usually exposed.
Or the case is two separate pieces held on by adhesive. It feels flimsy, but this presents an opportunity for accessory.
Oh, of course.
Massive. Maybe the cases include a fold-out stand, or, going back to the pencil, where do you put it?
And where do you charge it?
The phone itself might be too thin to have that magnetic charging spot on the side.
Oh, good point. It'd be like sticking a pencil to the edge of a credit card.
Exactly. So the case might need to provide that charging dock.
Which, knowing Apple, will be another $150.
Naturally.
Yeah.
But if it lets you carry a mobile studio in your pocket, people will pay it.
It's interesting because to sell this year after year, once the it folds, novelty wears off, it has to do things a normal iPhone literally cannot do.
That is the crux of it. Innovation versus inflation. If it's just cool, it's inflation. If it's useful in a new way, it's innovation.
So let's wrap this up. We're looking at a squat, battery-heavy beast. It's got a huge camera, no Face ID, and costs a fortune. But it might actually be a secret iPad mini.
That is the best summary. The hardware looks solid, if a bit unusual, but the software, that iPadOS integration, is the only thing that justifies the existence of this device.
It's a high-wire act for them. They can't afford a flop at this price point.
They can't. And think about the broader implication here. This is the thought that kept nagging at me.
What's that?
If Apple successfully merges the phone and the tablet into one pocketable device, does this mark the beginning of the end for the standalone iPad?
Whoa.
Think about it. If your phone is your tablet, why buy a tablet? Specifically, why does the iPad mini exist in a world where the iPhone Fold exists?
That is a cannibalization problem they haven't really faced before. Usually they want you to own the whole stack. Watch, phone, iPad, Mac. This device deletes one of those circles.
It does, and how they navigate that is going to be fascinating to watch.
That is a question that's going to keep me up at night. That is a provocative thought to leave us on.
It's going to be a fascinating year for tech.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for breaking all this down. This went from just another rumor to a pretty fundamental shift in computing.
Always a pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Just a reminder, if you want to support what we do or get your own message out there, head over to techdaily.ai to explore sponsorship opportunities.
Definitely check it out.
Until next time, keep watching the leaks.
Goodbye, everyone.